Oh my God. Did you watch what I watched? All right. In real time, I'm going to go through some of the debate recaps. And I wanted to include a little bit of a little bit of audio and read some of the headlines as they're coming out tonight. Okay, so the CNN headline, Biden and Trump. Okay. Biden and Trump trade barbs on multiple fronts. Yes, they did. Okay, let's look for New York Times. Welcome to Arabson Media, by the way. I'm Hazem Jamal, and we usually have a much different podcast, but I wasn't going to watch the debate tonight, but then I decided to watch the debate, and I got it a little bit late, and I caught up with clips, and I'm just amazed that the most developed nation in the world is dealing with this. Okay, New York Times, Biden struggles as Trump... You call that struggling? Struggling is trying to open up, a can of tomato paste. Biden struggles as Trump blusters in contentious debate. Facing Trump's misleading attacks, Biden appears shaky at times. Shaky. Oh, my goodness. All right. New York Post. They're always good for a little bit of entertainment. Good night and goodbye. Let's see. Fox News. Raspy Biden gets off to a halting start against Trump in the first 2024 presidential debate. Let's see. Let's go to... They should be freaking out. Biden stumbles. Trump caveats election results question. CBS News. They don't qualify it. They just say that here are the highlights of the first showdown of 2024. They do acknowledge that he struggled early with a hoarse voice. Is that what you're calling it? NBC. Biden delivers shaky performance. Trump dodges accepting election results. Oof. ABC analysis doesn't even qualify it. They just say who won, who lost, because they're not taking a side. And in case you were not watching, here we go. Wall Street Journal. Biden crashed in his first debate with Trump, delivering the kind of performance Democrats were fearing. All right, so from the Middle East Eye, Donald Trump attacked U.S. President Joe Biden for not being supportive enough of Israel's war on Gaza, using a remark that denigrated Palestinians while going on to say that he supports the continuation of Israel's military operation. Trump said, quote, he doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian. I don't get it. But they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one. So, he may not have intended this, but I think what he implied there was that Palestinians are strong. But the bad qualifier, it's Trump. He's all rhetoric, but that's besides the point. Back in April, Trump had a radio interview with a conservative radio host named Hugh Hewitt. And what he said about Gaza was, what I say very plainly is get it over with. And let's get back to peace and stop killing people. I'm not sure that I'm loving the way that they're doing it, he added. He also openly criticized the footage that Israel's military showed with the destruction of Gaza, saying that they were, quote, the most heinous, most horrible tapes of buildings falling down. Of course, it's about the buildings, not the people or the babies or the children or the tens of thousands of people who have been mowed down since October, but the buildings. This conversation that we're going to play back, it's not great because it's not very articulate sounding, but it is very similar to something I remember hearing in one of the Republican debates, I think when Trump was originally running, because he was running on that anti-immigration platform where he famously said that Mexicans are rapists and they're coming across the border. He was just trying to outdo everybody else on the hard line of immigration policy. So everybody there on that stage way back when seemed to be one-upping each other on how much they hated immigrants. And no, I hate immigrants more. No, you think you hate immigrants. Let me show you how much I'm going to screw immigrants over. And so they would all just kind of like up the ante over and over and over again. And finally, Trump trumped everybody by being the biggest hater on immigrants when he first ran for president. So this debate is not even going to break down any nuances between Donald Trump and Joe Biden because, frankly, they don't have much difference between them. It's just a question of how pro-Israel they are or how anti-Palestinian they would be in their real actions in their day-to-day. Often, Arab Americans are told and shamed and reminded that for as much anger as they have towards Joe Biden, that they should shut the fuck up because Trump would be much worse, which is an excellent strategy for winning the Arab vote in swing states like Michigan. That said, yeah, I think most rational people who have looked at the difference between Democratic and Republican policy as it relates to the genocide in Gaza are that there is very little difference or daylight between the two parties. So we're not going to go over that, but we will have, for a little bit of a relief valve, a little bit of commentary on this whole line of questioning. Here was Trump and Biden speaking on Gaza during the debate.
President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released.
It's not a conflict, it's a genocide.
The remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas?
If that's a military offensive, what does a genocide look like?
And Israel to end the war. You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so first off, he speaks to everybody being on board, but we don't have a ceasefire, so something in there doesn't smell right. Secondly, doesn't this response remind you a little bit of Miss Teen South Carolina and Mario Lopez?
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
I just had no idea how much I needed that laugh. So much pressure and sadness and horrible things have been happening. All you can do is just shake your head and cry. We're obviously not going to get into material differences between candidates on this. We can zoom out a little bit and concur with your own eyes and ears. If you watched or saw any single bit of this, is that either one of them winning, we are doomed. The last election was supposed to be a battle for the soul of America. This is the battle for coherence and truth. Neither of those guys can give it to us. on both of those points, coherence and truth. All right, so we're going to jump back into their little section on foreign wars and funding them.
You got to ask them, as far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
All right, so there you have it. Special edition of the shit show. This is the state of our national politics, making a great case for a third party. Democrats are freaking out, I'm sure. We're getting the initial kind of breakdown and spin from all the networks, and everybody's kind of trying to give everybody a soft landing that I would be surprised if Joe Biden is our candidate by the time we get to the convention. I really would. And just to make sure that we're not overshooting our desires or our wants, and that's not going to change a whole lot other than the faces of the candidates and the energy and the things that people perceive. You know, I'm a big believer in the 13 keys to the White House, and that the country's mood and leader charisma, incumbency, and foreign policy are bigger factors than polls, but this is going to factor into a couple of the keys to the White House if you think about it. If Biden is replaced somehow, I don't know how that happens or how that looks. We've all probably heard little rumors or wishful thinking of that for a long time. And if or when that happens, I just want everybody to remember that that's not going to change our policy as a country very much towards Israel. I know there's a lot of anger out there about Biden, with younger people, with people who are progressive, with people who are anti-war, with the Arab American community, and with people who have completely been shell-shocked by watching, you know, the atrocities of babies being blown up every day on their social media feeds. That said, if Biden is swapped out, there still needs to be a focus on changing our policy towards funding this kind of horror show over there. Just a reminder, just to bring us back down to earth. I mean, it was a good shock show, and I don't know about you, but we were all texting each other. You and me and Bobby McGee texting each other during this debate, whether you were watching or not. I think the ratings probably picked up after the first few minutes when everybody started texting everybody that this is a shit show. So that's where we are, folks. We are not sitting pretty. If you're hoping that this debate would articulate a clear strategy for where we are with Gaza, we are more lost than ever. And if you think that policy is going to change between now and the election, but if you think there's going to be probably a little bit more unrest or internal conflict with the Democratic Party based on Biden's performance, absolutely. That'll be an interesting show to watch. But in the meantime, don't get your eye off the ball in terms of creating change and impacting how we stop this genocide. You notice nobody called it that. They called it a war campaign. They did not refer to the number of people who have been killed, the number of civilians or children who have been killed. They did not refer to this other than the most broad of terms. And they just read the questions because that kind of stuff is prescribed to not rock the boat during that kind of institutional questioning of candidates. And there's nothing about Trump that isn't institutional and comfortable and safe at this point either. He is not a disruptor that he was when he first came in, who came off as being the anti-candidate, the 7-Up of colas. He's not that guy anymore. He is fully on board with 2 degrees of separation from this administration. It's just going to be style and tax cuts that are different. So happy night, sad night. Couldn't say either one, but I sure had a good laugh. Hope you have a good one too. Remember, let's end the genocide. Habibi, thanks for listening to the special edition of Arabs in Media. We'll see you next time.